In a world that screams for attention, have you ever noticed how some of the most powerful people are also the quietest? While a popular trend in modern parenting focuses on boosting a child's confidence with constant praise, the philosophy often associated with old money families seems to play a different game. They aren't just building confidence, they're forging character. And the very bedrock of that character, the skill that makes it unshakable, is emotional control. Now, this isn't about raising children who are cold or unfeeling, far from it. It's about teaching them that emotions are powerful tools, meant to be understood and channeled, not suppressed or performed. It's the art of feeling everything, but showing only what is strategic. Where modern culture often encourages us to express every impulse, this approach teaches that true strength lies not in the volume of our feelings, but in our mastery over them. This philosophy aims to create adults who aren't easily swayed by public opinion, who remain steady under immense pressure, and whose validation comes from a deep internal reservoir of self-respect, not the fleeting approval of others. So in this video, we're not just talking theory, we're pulling back the curtain on the specific practical techniques that this philosophy promotes for cultivating emotional discipline. These are the quiet lessons that transform children into composed, resilient, and formidable adults. We'll reveal the unwritten rules so you can apply this timeless wisdom to build not just a confident child, but a child of profound character. While a lot of parenting advice tells you to build your child's confidence, there's a different philosophy, one often associated with families who've held quiet influence for generations, that does the exact opposite. They build character first, and the secret to that character is a form of discipline rarely discussed in today's parenting guides: emotional control. While many children are taught to broadcast their feelings, heirs to this way of thinking are taught to manage them. This distinction may be a key source of their legendary poise and resilience. Now, is this training the only source of their success? Of course not. Resources and education play a massive role, but it's a piece of their cultural inheritance that's rarely discussed. If you've ever wondered how they produce adults who seem so unflappable in a crisis, the answer may not just be in their bank accounts. It's in their emotional training. Stay with us as we reveal the 7 secret rules they use to achieve it. Rule number 1: the pause before the reaction. The first and fundamental rule is teaching the art of the pause. It's the practice of creating a space between an emotional trigger and your reaction to it. While a common instinct is to immediately address a child's outburst by soothing, scolding, or negotiating, this approach first teaches the child to find a moment of stillness for themselves. This isn't about ignoring the child or dismissing their feelings. It's a strategic lesson in self-regulation. The philosophy is simple. Actions born from raw, unchecked emotion are almost always moves you'll regret. A reaction is impulsive. A response is considered. Children, by nature, are creatures of impulse. They feel frustration and they throw a toy. They feel disappointment and they cry. They feel anger and they yell. The modern approach often focuses on the aftermath, validating the feeling, talking about why yelling is wrong, or finding a quick fix. The old money method, however, tries to intervene before the reaction takes hold. When a child faces frustration, a puzzle piece won't fit, a sibling takes a toy. The parent doesn't immediately fix the external problem. Instead, they model and encourage a moment of stillness. They might say, calmly and without judgment, "Take a moment," or "Let's just breathe before we decide what to do." This simple instruction does 3 critical things. First, it physically interrupts the fight or flight response flooding the child's system. Pausing sends a signal to the developing brain that this isn't an emergency, allowing the logical part of the brain to re-engage. Second, the parent acts as the child's frontal lobe, lending them self-control they haven't developed yet. Over time, the child internalizes this voice, learning to tell themselves to take a moment. Third, it teaches a profound lesson in power. You are not your emotions. You are the one who directs them. Imagine a 10-year-old comes home devastated after not making the school sports team. A common reaction is to rush in with affirmations. "You're still a winner to me. The coach is an idiot. Let's get ice cream." While comforting, this can teach a child that negative feelings should be immediately medicated or blamed on others. The old money approach would be different. The parent would acknowledge the pain, but then guide the child through the pause. They might say, "This is disappointing and it's okay to feel that. Let's sit with it for a while. We won't decide how we feel about it or what to do next until tomorrow." This delay isn't a denial of emotion, it's emotional incubation. The child gets permission to feel the disappointment fully, but not to react impulsively. They don't immediately decide they hate the sport or that they're a failure. They just let the feeling exist, knowing a decision will come from a place of calm. This practice, repeated over years, builds incredible resilience. Obstacles stop being emotional emergencies and become data points to be analyzed after the storm has passed. How can you apply this? Start small. When your toddler is frustrated, resist the urge to immediately solve it. Get down to their level, put a calming hand on their back, and just be a quiet, steady presence. Use simple, consistent language. Let's take a breath. The goal is to first lower the emotional temperature. Only after calm returns should you discuss the problem. For older kids, you can introduce the 24-hour rule for big decisions or reactions. Teach them their first emotional impulse is just information, not a directive. By teaching the pause, you're giving your child the ability to choose their response. You're moving them from being a puppet of their feelings to the master of their mind. Rule number 2. Emotion is a private tool, not a public weapon. The second rule governs the social expression of emotion. In this philosophy, children are taught a crucial distinction. Feelings are for private processing, not for public performance. The maxim is often, "Feel everything, show little." This isn't about suppression, which is the unhealthy denial of emotion. It's about strategy and dignity. In many modern contexts, public displays of emotion are seen as a sign of authenticity. But in this worldview, public emotional outbursts are seen as a loss of self-command. They're considered untidy not because the emotions are wrong, but because their uncontrolled display gives away power. Children in these families learn early that their emotional state is a private matter. A tantrum in a store would be handled with a swift, quiet removal from the situation. The message is clear. This is not a performance for an audience. The issue will be dealt with privately, where emotion can be addressed without the corrupting influence of public perception. This teaches a child that their feelings are not a tool for manipulating others. This principle is rooted in a Stoic understanding of control. The only thing you can truly control is your own inner world. To let your emotions spill out uncontrollably is to surrender that control. Therefore, emotional discipline is taught as a form of intelligence and strength. Maintaining composure under pressure communicates that you are in control of yourself and can be relied upon. Consider two teenagers who receive a grade they feel is unfair. The first might immediately complain to friends, post about it online, and publicly confront the teacher. Their reaction is immediate and public. They're seeking external validation for their outrage. The second teenager, raised with this philosophy, would process the anger internally. They wouldn't complain to peers, understanding that gossip is a low form of communication. After cooling down, they would calmly and privately request a meeting. In that meeting, they wouldn't use emotional language. They'd present a logical, fact-based case. "I was hoping you could walk me through the grading on these sections, as I want to understand where I fell short." The difference is profound. The first teenager used emotion as a public weapon and likely alienated the teacher. The second used emotion as a private tool, a catalyst that signaled a problem, but their public action was one of strategy and respect. They showed they're a serious person, not an emotional child to be managed. How can parents integrate this? 1. Stop public negotiations. When your child has a meltdown in public, don't engage. Calmly and silently remove them from the environment. Say, "We will talk about this in the car," or "We'll handle this at home." This sets a firm boundary. Our emotional business is private. 2. Differentiate venting from complaining. Teach the difference. Venting is processing with a trusted person in private. Complaining is the unproductive public repetition of a grievance. Encourage the former and gently curb the latter by asking, "What's your plan to solve this?" 3. Model emotional privacy. Avoid complaining about your boss or neighbors in front of your kids. Handle disagreements behind closed doors. Let your children see you as a calm, steady leader. When you're upset, you can label it, "I'm feeling frustrated, so I'm going to take a few minutes for myself," which models self-awareness without a messy display. Rule number 3. Failure is a lesson, not an identity. In our hyper-competitive world, it's easy to see failure as a catastrophe, something to avoid or cushion. The instinct is to protect a child's self-esteem at all costs. If a child fails a test, blame the teacher. If they lose a game, give everyone a trophy. The unintentional message is that failure is so terrible, the child can't handle it. The old money philosophy operates on a different principle, something you might call engineered failure. Here, failure isn't just expected, it's considered an essential part of life's curriculum. The key is to detach the event of failing from the identity of being a failure. The thinking is this: character isn't built from effortless successes, it's forged in setbacks. Resilience, grit, and humility can only be learned by falling and getting back up. Therefore, parents don't rush to prevent their children from failing. They may even deliberately allow small, manageable failures to happen. When a child fails, the parental reaction is notably calm. There's no panic, no coddling, no blame. Instead, the response is pragmatic and forward-looking. A child comes home with a failed test, and the parent doesn't say, "That's okay, you're smart anyway." They say, "Learn from it. What's next?" This simple response is a masterclass in character building. Learn from it frames failure not as a judgment, but as an educational opportunity. It shifts focus from the emotional pain to the intellectual task of analyzing what went wrong. What's next directs the child's energy towards the future, not the past. It discourages wallowing in self-pity. The message is that life moves on, and dwelling on a setback is a waste of energy. The modern approach of protecting from failure inadvertently creates kids who are terrified of it. They might avoid challenges or develop a fragile self-esteem. Their confidence is hollow because it's never been tested. The old money child, on the other hand, develops a robust, anti-fragile confidence. They're not afraid to fail because they've been taught that failure is survivable. A failed exam doesn't mean "I am stupid," it means "my study method was ineffective." How can a parent implement this? 1. Resist the urge to rescue. If your child forgets their homework, don't race to school to deliver it. Let them face the natural consequence. The discomfort of these small failures is the price of learning self-reliance. 2. Change your language. Shift from praising innate qualities, "You're so smart," to praising process and effort. "I saw how hard you worked on that." When they fail, use the "learn from it, what's next" framework. Ask, "What would you do differently next time?" 3. Share your own failures. Normalize failure by talking about your own mistakes and what you learned. This shows your child that failure is a universal part of the human experience. Rule number 4. Dignity comes before desire. The fourth rule is a powerful countercurrent to our instant gratification culture. The principle is that dignity comes before desire. This means teaching a child the art of restraint, the power of waiting, and the quiet strength that comes from not needing to satisfy every impulse. It is delayed gratification in practice. In many households, a child's desire is treated as an urgent need. Giving in is often the path of least resistance, but this teaches a dangerous lesson, that impatience works. Old money parenting takes the opposite approach. Children are systematically taught that their desires are not emergencies. The ability to want something and not immediately have it is cultivated like a muscle. While the famous marshmallow test showed a link between delayed gratification and later success, we also know that a child's environment plays a huge role. This philosophy aims to build that stability internally, so a child can create it for themselves. This training appears in small daily rituals. At the dinner table, children might be served last and expected to wait until everyone is served before eating. When receiving gifts, they're taught to open them slowly and express gratitude. This practice does several things. 1. It builds impulse control. Making a child wait literally helps build the neural pathways for self-regulation and long-term planning. 2. It teaches emotional regulation. The frustration of waiting is a small, manageable dose of a difficult emotion. They learn that the intense feeling of wanting something isn't an emergency, it's a temporary state they can manage. 3. It fosters gratitude. When something is received instantly, it's valued less. Waiting imbues the object or experience with greater significance. 4. It conveys quiet strength. A person who isn't a slave to their impulses exudes a unique power. They are seen as deliberate and in control. This is the essence of dignity. Imagine a child in a supermarket who sees candy at the checkout. The common scenario involves pleading, whining, and maybe a tantrum. Many exhausted parents give in. The old money parent has preempted this. The child knows impulse buys aren't part of their family culture. A request for candy would be met with a calm, quiet, non-negotiable, "No, not today." The child may feel disappointed, but they've been conditioned to know a public display won't change the outcome. They've learned to manage that frustration internally. How can parents apply this rule? 1. Institute formal waiting periods. Instead of buying a toy immediately, create a wish list for a birthday or holiday. This validates the desire without instantly gratifying it. 2. Practice rituals of patience. Implement small routines that teach waiting, like no one eating until everyone is served, or having screen-free times of day. 3. Be consistent and calm. The key is consistency. If you sometimes give in to tantrums, you're teaching your child that it's a gamble that might pay off. Your no must be as calm and immovable as a mountain. 4. Model it. Let your children see you delay your own gratification. Talk about saving for a long-term goal instead of making an impulsive purchase. Rule number 5. Silence is strength. In a world buzzing with noise and the pressure to have an immediate opinion on everything, old money families teach a radical lesson. Silence is strength. The loudest person in the room, this philosophy suggests, is often the weakest because their need to fill every moment with sound signals insecurity. This contrasts sharply with trends that can prioritize verbal participation above all else. While communication is a vital skill, this approach places equal, if not greater, emphasis on the art of listening and the strategic use of silence. The training begins early. Children are taught that listening is an active, not a passive process. They learn to absorb what's being said, observe body language, and consider their response before speaking. This isn't about being timid. It's about understanding that a well-considered comment carries far more weight than a stream of chatter. This practice serves several key functions. 1. It fosters self-regulation. Learning to be quiet helps a child's mind settle. It builds their ability to focus and absorb information. 2. It cultivates observational power. When you're not busy thinking about what you'll say next, you're free to truly observe. Children taught this become astute judges of character and situations. They learn more by listening than they ever could by talking. It teaches emotional discipline. Silence is the ultimate buffer against impulsive reactions. When provoked, the instinct is to retaliate with words. The child, trained in the art of silence, learns to hold that impulse. They might meet an insult with a calm, steady gaze. This response is incredibly disarming. It refuses to engage in drama and communicates unshakable self-control. 4. It makes words more powerful. When someone is known for being quiet and deliberate, their words carry immense weight when they finally do speak. They have conditioned the world to listen by not wasting words. How can a parent teach the strength of silence? 1. Model quiet behavior. Turn off the TV and radio when they're just background noise. Spend time reading quietly. Let your children see that a home doesn't need to be filled with constant noise to be happy. 2. Practice active listening. When your child speaks, give them your full attention. Put down your phone, make eye contact, and listen without just planning your reply. 3. Create quiet time. Institute a daily period where everyone engages in a silent activity like reading or drawing. This helps children become comfortable with stillness. 4. Don't force speech. If a child is naturally introverted, don't pressure them to be more talkative. Affirm their observant nature. You might say, I notice you're a wonderful listener. You see things other people miss. This reframes their quietness as a strength. Rule number 6. Model calm leadership. Of all the lessons in emotional control, perhaps none is more powerful than the one that is never spoken, only shown. This parenting philosophy is based on the principle of modeling calm leadership. A parent who tells a child to be calm while they themselves are yelling is teaching a lesson in hypocrisy, not control. The philosophy is that the home should be a bastion of stability. This doesn't mean it's devoid of problems, but that the parental response to those problems is measured and consistent. These parents rarely argue loudly, panic in a crisis, or parent based on fleeting moods. They understand their emotional state sets the tone for the entire household. A calm parent creates a calm child. An anxious parent creates an anxious child. This steady leadership provides deep emotional security. A child learns that problems are manageable and that panic is an unproductive response. This modeling shows up in several key areas. Conflict resolution. Disagreements are handled privately. Discipline is administered calmly and consistently, not out of a fit of anger. Response to crisis. In a minor crisis, a spilled drink, a broken plate, the reaction isn't anger. It's often a quiet sigh, followed by a pragmatic, well, let's figure out how to clean this up. The child learns that setbacks are logistical problems to be solved, not emotional dramas. Emotional expression. Parents model control by not being volatile. They show it's possible to be a strong leader without yelling or emotional manipulation. Consider how two families might handle running late. In the first, there's yelling, blaming, and rising panic. The kids absorb this anxiety. They learn that being late is a major emotional crisis. In the second family, the parents recognize they're running late. One might say quietly, "Looks like we'll be about 15 minutes late. I'll text to let them know." Their tone is calm. They help the kids get ready with efficiency, but without panic. The children learn a powerful lesson. Stress is something you manage, not something you broadcast. How can a parent become a more effective, calm leader? 1. Regulate yourself first. This is the most critical step. When you feel your emotions escalating, take a pause. You can't calm your child's storm if you're in the middle of your own. 2. Establish predictable routines. Consistency creates a calm environment. When children know what to expect, they feel more secure and there are fewer battles of will. 3. Use a calm tone of voice. Authority doesn't come from yelling, it comes from quiet confidence. A soft but firm voice is often more effective than a shout because it forces others to quiet down to listen. 4. Have a united front policy. Agree with your co-parent to never argue about discipline in front of the children. Discuss disagreements privately to present a consistent leadership team. Rule number 7. Gratitude is the foundation of humility. The final rule underpins the entire philosophy, the active cultivation of gratitude. In our desire to give our children the best, it's easy to inadvertently foster a sense of entitlement. This leads not to confidence, but to a fragile arrogance. The old money philosophy counters this by instilling a deep-seated gratitude. This isn't just about saying thank you, it's about shaping a child's entire perspective. They are taught to appreciate what they have, recognize the efforts of others, and understand their position not as a right, but as a responsibility. This disciplined gratitude serves several purposes. 1. It builds humility. Gratitude is the antidote to arrogance. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. 2. It fosters resilience. A grateful perspective changes how one views setbacks. It creates a positive emotional baseline, making it easier to cope with disappointment. 3. It discourages envy. In the old money ethos, envy is seen as a waste of energy. When you are focused on appreciating your own circumstances, you are less likely to be consumed by envy of others. 4. It creates authentic confidence. The confidence from entitlement is brittle. The quiet confidence from gratitude is solid. It's the confidence of a person who knows their value but doesn't need to broadcast it. This teaching is woven into daily life. Children might write thank you notes not as a chore, but as an exercise in reflection. They might participate in service to gain a tangible understanding of their good fortune. A child raised in a culture of gratitude is taught to thank the person who prepared their meal, regardless of personal preference. This small act reinforces the idea that they are part of a system of mutual respect. How can a parent cultivate this deep sense of gratitude? 1. Model authentic gratitude. Let your children hear you express gratitude every day, for a sunny day, for a good conversation, for the meal you are about to eat. 2. Implement gratitude rituals. Start a daily practice, perhaps at dinner, where each family member shares one thing they are grateful for. This trains the brain to actively look for the positive. 3. Insist on meaningful thank yous. Move beyond a rote thank you. Encourage specifics. Instead of thanks for the gift, guide them to say, thank you for the book. I'm so excited to read it. 4. Create opportunities for service. Involve children in age-appropriate service, from helping a neighbor to donating old toys. Experiencing the act of giving is the most powerful way to learn gratitude. If this dive into the psychology of character resonated with you, subscribe for more insights into timeless wisdom and the habits that create lasting success. We believe the greatest luxuries aren't things you can buy, but qualities you can build. Join our community and continue the journey. The 7 rules we've discussed, the pause, emotion as a private tool, failure as a lesson, dignity before desire, silence as strength, calm leadership, and gratitude, are more than just parenting tips. They are components of a cohesive philosophy. It's a philosophy dedicated to forging character first, knowing that authentic confidence is the natural result of a strong character. This approach is not about creating emotionless automatons. It's about raising thoughtful, resilient, and composed individuals who can navigate life with grace. It's about teaching children that their emotions are a source of information, not a set of marching orders. It's about giving them the internal resources to remain steady when the world is in chaos. And while this philosophy may be associated with old money, its principles are timeless and accessible to anyone. They don't require a trust fund. They require consistency, patience, and a parent's own commitment to self-mastery. The ultimate goal is to raise adults whose self-worth is so deeply internalized that they are immune to the fleeting judgments of the outside world. They don't need to prove their value because they are secure in it. This is the quiet power this philosophy truly understands, and it is a legacy of character worth more than any inheritance.